What's happening, Andy? Here, I'm joined today by Andre Durbano from RISO. How you doing, Andre?
I'm well. How are you, Andy?
I am awesome. It is great to see you. I love the "What's Happening" hat behind you there on your behind your shoulder there. Very cool. That's an old one. That's an old one. I have that one over there as well.
I'm all about the vintage stuff.
You are. This is one of the oldest of the old. So we're doing a little retro today. So good to see you. Where are you today? You look like you might be home.
I am home today in Massachusetts, and it's one of those Dean Martin days again, where the weather outside is frightful. Oh, yeah. I'm not sure about Rochester, but I'm sure you can talk my ear off about that.
So yeah, you and I are sharing a massive storm that just went through, and we've got probably 18 inches or so. I've been out scooping little doggy trails for my puppies. It's a good day to be home. It's a good day to be in a home office, that's for sure. We wanted to check in with you guys and see what's happening at RISO. Why don't you, for the 2 or 3 people who might watch this who don't know who RISO is, tell me who RISO is.
RISO is a company that since its inception has always created products that are based on ink. It started with the digital duplicator back in 1986, which is kind of a throwback to the offset press. And we converted to a 4-color, the CMYK inkjet about 17 years ago. Today, we continue to have the 2 product lines. The thing with the digital duplicator, it's pretty much all schools at this point. We have a huge arts community that uses RISO, and they call it Risography. And these are art students in the art departments of universities. And what they do is they'll use the duplicator to lay down an image in yellow and then overlay a red to create a pink, and then they'll put in a green to create a blue hue. And so it's a very artsy approach to 4-color offset printing via the digital duplicator. They make comic books with this stuff, and we have
so these are done. Actually, I've seen these. This is what a nerd I am. I've actually seen these on YouTube. They're done at universities. I think there's courses in using these printers in Japan, right? Where they take these classes and it shows them. It's probably part of a larger printing program, I would think. But they were all on these RISO printing devices doing exactly what you said. And it was all in Japanese. I couldn't understand what they were saying, and the text was in Japanese, but I could see what they were doing, and it was fascinating.
Well, there's a university in New York, an arts university. They actually offer a 1-week course in risography, and they charge $350 for, I think it's a 3-week, 4-week program. And you have, a lot of artists who work from home go there, and they come there prepared with their artwork all separated in 2, 3, 4 plates, if you will. And we'll then go on the RISO and work on it. So it's quite the movement. And the interesting thing is the students who graduate from those colleges go on to work in art departments in organizations that are some of the biggest names in America. Okay, and I can't mention them because some of them, they don't want their name used. They claim it'll help sell our product. But it'll blow you away. It would blow you away to find out some of these organizations who they are. And these students go work for these organizations, and they demand that they have a RISO in their art room. And so we're selling these RISOs into these high-end organizations. It's the duplicator is a very interesting story, but our growth lies with the inkjet technology, where that is really taken off.
Now let's talk about inkjet, because it's been in the news quite a bit lately. We had obviously a major vendor in our industry, HP, pulled out of office inkjet. That's not really where you play.
No.
Let's talk about inkjet. How has inkjet been through the pandemic over the last 2 years? Laser printing, we've sold a lot less lasers, in some cases a lot more, in some lower end ones, the A4 products. The A3 has been more challenged. What's the market like for inkjet for you guys? What are you seeing?
So the interesting thing about the pandemic is it's forced all of us to reassess our personal lives, our work lives, and we're not going to dive into that part because that would be psychology 101 for us today. But as it pertains to our industry and the print market, the production print world, they now have end users, print buyers, who are saying, look, we need to find a way to continue to get our message out, our advertising out, our mailers out. We need to keep printing, but we now are looking at a different budget. The budget is much tighter. Is there any way where we can continue to print in color, but at a lower cost? 2021 was the year where the production arena embraced cut sheet production inkjet in a huge way. We've had orders from dealers and print shops like never before. We're having a record year at RISO. We've got now 2 months left in our fiscal year. The past 10 months, starting April 2021, have been phenomenal because of the acceptance of inkjet. Inkjet is a different look. It's ink on paper, so it bleeds into the paper. It's a flat look compared to toner, which is baked onto paper and sits above, so it's sharper and crisper.
And by the way, it tends to use an enormous amount of energy comparative to your inkjet process. There are different inkjet processes, but my understanding is your process uses a cold process, which uses considerably less energy than the hot process, correct? The piezo inks, if that's what you guys call them.
Inkjet in general, not just RISO, but anybody's inkjet device uses no heat. So that's one of the huge advantages of inkjet. No heat, minimal electricity. You can crank it up to crazy speeds. We now have a device printing 320 pages per minute.
I was going to ask you I'm going to give it a shot. The RISO Valezus.
Close. Valezus.
Valezus.
If you can say Pegasus, you can say Valezus.
Well, if you pronounce it right, I hear you get a free one. So that was a flagship. Yeah, that's not true. No. So that came out last year, if I remember correctly, or was it just at the end of the year before?
It's about 14, 15 months that we've had the Valezus.
So it's fairly new, and that's a monster. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? And because that's your flagship, right?
That is the flagship. So the interesting thing is, you've got RISO production that's in that $100,000 level, right? That is the main RISO GD series, and that is what most of our dealers focus on. We sell more production equipment, production inkjet equipment, than the entire industry combined. Like, we're putting out some 200 production inkjet devices a year. Okay. And when you factor in every other manufacturer and the amount of production inkjet devices, now granted, okay, we're at 100,000. Most of the other technologies are hovering around 1 million. It's a very different, animal. They're more high quality inkjet devices. They're printing 10 million a month. Our duty cycle is 750,000 a month. But when you look at actual installations, RISO is the device that sells more annual devices into the production print arena than the entire industry combined here in the US. And I think globally, those numbers work out the same as well.
Wow, that's impressive. And now up on the screen, we've got the Valezus, so I'm seeing 320 impressions a minute.
So this is an interesting story, Andy. It is full color. It's an interesting story because we launched this about, 15 months ago or so. And it took some time to get traction because this technology, now you're going from that $100,000 level up to a $250,000 level. And, when customers look at that dollar amount, they figure out pretty quick that, for 300,000, they can pick up 3 RISOs, and they love that versatility, the redundancy that comes with that. Having said that, in the past 4 months, we have put out 10 of those units. In fact, we just picked up a PO yesterday for 2 more. And believe it or not, this PO came from Kyocera, right? Now, Kyocera is an organization that has its own production inkjet technology, but this is a customer that had some very specific space requirements. We come in at about 16 feet. What you see there, the Kyocera device is about 25 feet. And so it worked to our advantage, but, good on Kyocera for covering, every part of the industry where they can go in with their own device, where the speed and the quality is needed. And then they've got other customers that just require the simplicity of a RISO. So they cover both ends.
So Very, very cool. Yeah, that Kyocera device is awesome. It is a nice device. It's but it's one inkjet device versus an entire fleet of them, which is
Sure,
all you
we've got
do.
about
So,
9.
they have been very successful with that, and it's a great product as well. You also have some new products that I wanted to talk about while we have you on. They just came out. We were talking about them. Were they, I believe, FT series or FW? They were
The FT,
They were
to your
FT.
left. Yeah, it's the
So
FT
let's click
series.
on there. Hopefully they're on your site by now, maybe not, but
Yeah, no, there they are.
all right.
Yeah. So you have to remember that RISO is the only inkjet company that uses oil-based ink. And the big advantage with oil-based ink is we don't need a dryer, right?
That is
The
huge
ink,
because that's a major energy saver as well, right?
that is correct. It's an energy saver. It's a huge space saver. In some cases, a dryer can take up 2 to 6 feet, depending on the technology. And that's why, on the very high end, we're 16 feet. Our GD series fully loaded is about 8.5 feet. This right here, I mean, you're looking at 4 to 5 feet. This device right here, the new FT series, we've got 5 models, and they print from a low of 108 pages a minute to a high of 140 pages per minute. So when you think about it, 140 pages per minute in color on a technology that needs no more than 4.5 feet to get this done, and you're printing 8,400 impressions an hour. And there's your electrical on that page you just went by, the electrical benefits. So big environmental benefits, huge benefits. We have a huge account in Manhattan. Okay.
1.75 kilowatts per week when it's not being used.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's the
That's
power
nothing.
of
That's nothing.
It's the power of a blow dryer. You can plug and play, put this into plug it into any outlet, and you're off to the races. I was saying we have an account in Manhattan where some of those buildings, power consumption is a huge deal, and they have multiple Xeroxes in there. Well, it turns out they needed more printing equipment. The building manager said, "No more. You can't suck up more of our juice here. You're done." And so they went off and picked up 5 RISOs to put into their printing area because of the fact that we take up no power. There's 0 emission, okay? Very little power. So there's huge environmental advantages to production technology. So for those print shops and those print environments that are into the environmental aspect of printing and want to minimize emissions and footprint, this is a huge benefit. The FT series that you have up there is 5 models. The interesting thing is one of those models is actually a black and white. And this is the first black and white model we've ever launched. Now, the beauty of inkjet and the purpose or the prime directive for all the Trekkies out there is that, we take the black and white world and allow them to convert their jobs to color without breaking the bank. Okay, they can do this inside of an operating budget because color inkjet is so affordable. So why the black and white? There are a handful of customers with specific needs where black and white is needed. They have to do some inserting and folding, and so they want the flat, cold output that only inkjet can produce. There's no warping of the paper. We're not cooking the paper. We're not creating that crispy potato chip. So the paper is soft, it's cold, it's supple, and so they can take that substrate and run it through an insert folder. It'll run that much better. Again, the FT series that you just put up, that 4.5 foot device, that's got a duty cycle of $500,000 a month, right? And so I get a lot of salespeople saying to me, "Well, $500,000, what's the real number?" We have no heat. $500,000 is a real number. Like, this thing will do 500,000 impressions a month. Our GD series will do 750,000 a month.
It's hard when you're selling laser to get your head around that sometimes because we all knew from my sales days as well, right? That duty cycle was a number that nobody would ever do. And if they did, your machine wouldn't last very long, right? It wasn't, you had the recommended volume and then you had the duty cycle, and they were 2 completely different numbers. But you're saying, because of this inkjet, because technology and the fact that it doesn't use heat, which is a huge stress on the system, it allows these to actually run at the levels that you're publishing.
Correct. In fact, there's a terminology called burst printing or peak printing. Those print shops that generate invoices and transactional material, statements, and very often like credit cards, they print for 25 days. They sit around just preparing for the final 5 days of the month or the first 5 days of the month. And over the course of 2 or 3 days, they are printing 80 to 90% of their millions and millions and millions of statements going out. And that type of peak printing, burst printing, can only be accomplished on a technology that uses no heat. And so you have all these inkjet devices in those environments where you can crank it up in 3 shifts, 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, 3 shifts in a 24-hour period. And the RISO Inkjet is working throughout those shifts over the course of 3 days, nonstop.
Wow.
So that's, it's a fascinating part of the production arena to be in. And, we try to get this message across to the dealer community, and those dealers that have a solid production department, they get it. Okay. The mega dealers, the big dealers out there who compete successfully against some of the larger manufacturers, they get where inkjet fits. But, and they all sell RISO. Impact, for example, in Chicago, put out 10 RISOs just in December alone into the production arena, all production devices. So, but we try to go see the mid-size dealer as well and the smaller dealer and say, guys, there's this opportunity in the production arena right now where as a dealer, they want to pick up some of the lost meter clicks. What better way? You put out a RISO, one device alone is collecting 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 meter clicks a month. And you really don't have to step out of your lanes all that much. I mean, you've been selling copiers your whole life. You can sell a RISO. And the interesting thing is, we are a segment of the production industry. So it's not like there's a concern that, well, gee, I'm going to have to go up against the Canons, the KMs, the Ricos. Not really, right? When it comes to inkjet printing, first of all, we're in a space all on our own. Okay, we're at 100,000, maybe 200,000 for the Valezus, but everybody else is well above us. So you're kind of in your own space, and your customer either has the need or they don't. And more often than not, today in production, when it comes to inkjet, there's been so much chatter over the past 5 years. In 2016, when Canon launched their i300, when Xerox launched their Brenva device, it legitimized the space, and these print shops started to get this message. They'd been hearing it from RISO for years, but we were kind of a novelty device. And then you start getting that same message from a Canon, from a Xerox, and everybody stopped to listen now. Okay, that was 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, 5 years. Go to a Drupa, go to any of those shows, which hopefully they'll be able to start doing again. And it was all inkjet, right? You didn't see Xerox posting their iGen there. You saw, because nobody wants electrostatic at that level anymore. Now it's all inkjet, which is one of the reasons they're struggling. But they want high speed inkjet. It's better, it's faster. There's no limit to it. I mean, you just came out with something 320 pages a minute, 15 months ago. Let's see where, in a couple of years, the only limit is how fast can you get the ink to dry. So as the technology keeps moving forward, keeps improving, and they keep figuring out faster ways to dry that ink, you can make these devices faster and faster and faster. Ink, xerography, electrostatic printing has hit a point where you really have made it as fast as you're going to be able to make it. That drum can only do that. They can only add toner onto it and charge it, and hit it with the wire. It can only move that so quickly. You hit a point where you just can't do it any faster. And inkjet hasn't come to that point yet where these guys are with it. So
no, there's a lot of growth yet to come. There's a lot of growth yet to come with inkjet. And you are right about the ink. The game is all about the ink. There are, as I said, $1 million devices out there in the inkjet arena, and some of those will print on glossy stock. Okay, that's something we don't do, right, in our space. But it is all about the ink. As technology improves, the ink improves on inkjet. We start to print on more and more substrates. Used to be, 15 years ago when we launched our first one, the ink was so liquidy that you would flip your paper over and you could see the ink on the backside. Okay. And that was a real problem.
Yeah.
And today, the compound that RISO anyway uses in its ink, it has a hardener inside of that ink that as soon as that ink hits the paper, it's instant dry. It cures the ink before the paper has a chance to absorb it too much. There's still a certain amount of absorption going on, but nowhere near as much as what we had 20 years ago. So we don't have that bleed through anymore. And so duplexing now is a huge thing.
Which you used to not be able to do on inkjet products. And the biggest issue with inkjet, in my opinion, is just that stigma that people used it 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever, and they used it in their home offices because it was inexpensive and it probably came with the computer you bought at a compact computer, if you remember those, and it was free. And then you went to go get new cartridges and they cost $1 million, so you just got a new printer. And that's kind of what people did for a while, but they sucked, right? They were slow. The thing would shake your whole desk as it came out an inch at a time, and the ink on there would smear. It would be wet. You couldn't duplex. If you were trying to do pictures or something, heaven forbid, you really would be soaking through, and it's not like that anymore. I mean, these are usable office documents. You can use them for anything. And, you see people in restaurants and religious organizations and schools. I mean, there's still plenty of opportunity for print, and ink just is affordable and fits the need, especially in some of these, I think, more challenging markets where they are more budget. I mean, everybody's concerned on their budgets, right? But schools are notorious for not having any money, and they are one of the biggest users of documents, at least today.
And schools, let me tell you something. Over the past year, when schools started to open up again, we did well through the pandemic because the production arena grew. Yeah. The need for inkjet grew. So we almost had half of our unit sales because we lost the school sales. But those that were buying the equipment were production based. And so our supplies managed to keep up because production uses a lot of ink. Okay. Now in the past, 9 months, we've had the schools open up again. And so we've had the school business come back to RISO. So we have not only now the continued success of the production arena, but the school districts are saying, hey, we see what some of these print organizations are doing with this inkjet technology. We want in, not at $1 million though. What do you guys, RISO, have to offer us that makes sense? And so we have a lot of school district implants that are adding inkjet, RISO inkjet, in that $100,000 in space, so that they can access color for about a penny a page. So these school districts,
which is unreal, by the way. I mean, consider 10, 15 years ago, what were we charging? 10, 20 cents a page, right? So
that's right. So, school districts are so hungry for this that the larger school districts, those with tens of thousands of students and lots of money, they're investing close to $1 million on a Canon, on a Xerox, on a Ricoh. That's how eager they are to access color at a penny a page. But the rest of those school districts who are not as high end, don't have the volume of students, they are the ones turning to RISO and saying, okay, well, you've got 9 models here, and we have products anywhere from a low of 30,000 to a high of 200,000. Somewhere in there is a device that fits our need. So in many cases, we're putting devices into the school district implant. In some cases, we're actually going into the school district schools, and dealers are using our technology strategically where they're bidding, say, 100, 150 MFPs, but with 10 RISOs strategically located in some of the bigger high schools for affordable color printing. And when you put out a bid that has a blend of toner and inkjet, man, there's not too many people who can touch you on that. So it's a nice value proposition. And that's how the smart dealers are using RISO in that arena at the education level as a strategic tool to nail down those large MFP bids.
And are you guys still looking for new dealers? Are you still signing them up here and there?
We are signing up more dealers today than we ever have. And we're signing up the types of dealers that even up until 3 years ago, we couldn't. And so today we have, what here in America we refer to as mega dealers. You name them, and they're probably a RISO dealer. You have an organization like POA, who a year ago took on the RISO product, and they've done extremely well. Of course, there's very little they fail at, but they've done extremely well. And our traditional larger dealers have, really found their stride in the print arena and the production arena. I just wish that, there are so many dealers that are at the opposite end of the spectrum, the smaller dealers, the small to mid-size, who have attempted to come out of the pandemic and I've tried to develop new revenue streams, right? Whether it's managed print services, something to that effect. And I've had to, step out of their comfort zone to try and create new revenue streams. And that's something you don't need to do with the RISO device, because it's still a printer at the end of the day, something you've been selling your whole life.
But it's different.
You're part of the industry. It's just a little different, okay? But it's still a device that generates printed material. And all they need to do is go into even a small copy center today is looking for the benefits of production inkjet. So
it runs, let me just see if I understand. So it runs faster, it's more economical,
higher duty cycle,
is inherently more reliable because there's no fusing process. It's better for the environment.
Correct.
Sounds kind of like a no-brainer to for somebody to consider.
You know what it is? Inkjet uses a blend of 3 technologies. It has the speed and economy of the offset press. It has the ease of use of digital toner devices and all the added benefits of inkjet, as noted, no heat, high speed. So it really it's taken the best of all 3 worlds, blended it all into one box. But it's not the perfect device, and the perfect device doesn't exist. If it was a perfect device, we'd be able to print, Rembrandts on gloss. And that's not what we do. For that, you have to invest in a good quality toner device. Now, can the good quality toner device generate high-speed color at a low cost? Not really. And so the end user looks at this and says, well, darn it, we need to get 2 products. Yeah, the perfect product doesn't exist unless you're willing to pay mega dollars. And even then, it doesn't fit. It doesn't check off all the boxes. And so a solid print shop today, really, they need ink on the floor. They always have. They've lost the offset press. And so enter inkjet, which is ink, but on a digital platform. You don't need a dedicated operator. So they've got their black and white toner devices on one side, the color toner devices on the other. They've got the inkjet in this corner. What else do you need? Covered all your bases.
Awesome. Andre, thank you so much for taking the time today. This was really, really great. We will follow up in a few months, I think, and maybe we can do another one and talk a little bit more in depth about maybe some of the specific markets, education, and some of the others where you're working with these products, and maybe talk about opportunities and just how you're penetrating these markets with these products. And I do want to check in and see how the new devices are going. But based on the one you launched 15 months ago, I'm excited for you guys. You're definitely making some noise out there. I've been visiting a lot of dealers, and your name comes up quite a bit. So great job, great seeing you. Any last shout outs?
2022 is the year of the trade show, right? So we're gonna get to see you live, Andy.
We hope. I just saw your guys at the ECS conference, so we're starting to get back to it. I was hoping to see you, but I saw a couple of your guys there, so that was great. And so any last shout outs to anybody?
You know what? Shout out to every RISO dealer out there that has stuck by us over the years, and today are benefiting from the fact that we've got a technology that is in demand and widely accepted by end users, and that's the key. So that's all I have to say as far as shout outs are concerned.
Awesome. Great seeing you, Andre. We'll talk soon, and say hi to everybody at RISO for us.
Will do. Thank you, Andy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.